Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootlickers, shills, debt slavers, peasants, vassals, minions. I'm a Useful Idiot. Welcome. And today I want to talk about Hillary Clinton, who incidentally refers to all of you as bootlickers, shills, debt slavers, peasants, vassals, minions. But when she says it, she means it. I'm just kidding. But the reason why I want to talk about Hillary Clinton is because she's probably going to be your next president of the United States. And the very thought makes my skin crawl. But some of the facts seem to be adding up in that general direction. So first of all, we have this massive uncampaign going on where all the trappings of her running in 2016 are apparent, but she continues to tease the base and not announce any determination. And she will make the Democratic base demand that she run. That way she can act like, well, if you really want me, then I'll do it. But the fact is, her public policy polling has her at 67% among Democrats. Her numbers are more like an incumbent. She rates 60 to 70% in New Hampshire and Iowa, a couple of key states. And she has an overall 90% favorable view by liberals. 90%. Only 4% actually disapprove, which is staggering. I know that party line drones in both the Democratic Party and the Republican Party are pretty much automatons and don't know anything about their candidates. But that said, still 90% favorable overall rate by liberals is pretty staggering. So that means as far as the Democratic nomination and the support of the Democratic base, she has that completely wrapped up. And needless to say, she has a pretty broad appeal amongst other minority groups who, for some reason, identify with women as a minority group, which is kind of a ridiculous idea. But we have blacks and Hispanics who somehow relate to Hillary Clinton. And then one of the more disappointing aspects of Hillary Clinton running for president is that a lot of women are going to vote for her just because she's a woman, and that's very unfortunate in itself. But it also bespeaks to the fact that a lot of people who support Hillary Clinton don't know anything about her policies because she's practically a neocon, warmonger, the very antithesis of what women should be against and generally are as they dominant vote Democrat. And yet, just because she's a woman and a Democrat, they think she's not what she is. And the whole idea of a woman president being somehow more nurturing and more less of a warmonger and all these other things that women and particularly feminists like to attach to women's capabilities. The evidence so far in the world hasn't been that great when we look at the likes of Margaret Thatcher, Madeleine Albright, Imelda Marcos, and Golda Meir, not exactly giving their offices the soft touch. And like I say, the base for Hillary Clinton is women, non-college educated whites, Latinos, and African Americans, and all the other women in the Democratic Party, and some not in her party actually supported her, including Nancy Pelosi and Elizabeth Warren and Harry Reid. And interestingly enough, a couple of them didn't even support her last time, but she's looking pretty good after Obama. And everybody will be distancing themselves from Obama, which is what Hillary Clinton is doing right now. She's starting to maneuver for her presidential bid by distancing herself from Obama and criticizing his foreign policy, which is kind of interesting when you consider the fact that she was the head of the State Department and had a lot to do with Obama's foreign policy for many years there, including things and decisions that got us to where we are now. Let's also remember that Hillary Clinton, because she's married to Bill Clinton, is part of one of the most successful and vicious political machines America's ever seen, and they get things done. And the fact that Hillary Clinton has Bill Clinton as an asset also makes her extremely formidable amongst liberals and everyone else, unfortunately. And she's a psychopath. Anybody that wants to be president and pursues these political careers, I'm sorry, they're either a sociopath or psychopath, and I'm not really sure how one would distinguish once you get into the political arena. So that fact alone makes her very dangerous, but certainly no more or less dangerous than all the other political candidates. And I remember a lot of highlights over the years from Hillary Clinton. I remember her doing her fake crying in New Hampshire because she was afraid of what would happen in the country if she didn't get elected, and that was because she was getting so much press about her being the ice queen. So one little crying episode in New Hampshire using her feminine wiles, and that problem is remedied. Then, of course, let's not forget her remark about Omar Gaddafi. We came, he died, and we conquered. And then she laughs hideously. That's not really the kind of behavior I want to see in our world leaders either, even though I know they all act like that behind doors. The fact that she's willing to do that out in public is pretty embarrassing. And then who can forget the Benghazi hearing? Even though I never really thought there was much of a scandal in the whole Benghazi episode, her handling of it was certainly a scandal, and her impunity and her callousness were on display there that day. And then who can remember her famous claims that there was bullets whizzing by when she got off the plane in Bosnia? Certainly something that never happened. But these politicians like Hillary Clinton and all the rest, they create their own mythology by these carefully constructed lies to show things like that, like how much she risked herself in these foreign theaters by getting off a plane in Bosnia and having imaginary bullets flying around her. And then the more recent, the old foot in the old mouth with her claiming her and Bill Clinton were dead broke when they got out of office. And she's been backpedaling ever since, and she should, because that was one of the most ludicrous revisionist history, personal mythology creating events I've seen in a world where we see those all the time. And then we had the Monica Lewinsky affair. Now we have biographers who come out and say that Bill and Hillary actually used that episode to milk sympathy for Hillary Clinton, very cynically, and to create a better political position for her in the future. And seemed to work out pretty well, because not only did she get a nice consolation prize from Obama, becoming Secretary of State, but she also had a stint as a New York Senator, and got that job just based on her brand recognition. And so we see her groomed for the presidency, and like I say, the reason why I brought it up is we're seeing all the signs now. We got stuff like People magazine and Hillary and the White House, and really nice job photoshopping there. She looks about 20 years younger, and a much more impressive pantsuit than she usually wears. And then we have the special Time magazine that came out too. This is a real presidential thing. It's a very presidential picture in American life. Hillary, and I was surprised by a number of things. One, that when she was in college in 1969, she obviously knew she was on her way. But she's a young girl, and yet here's these massive amount of photos of her doing all these great pseudo-intellectual poses and the like. And so she was definitely enjoying the spotlight early on. I know in 1969 I was kind of a flaky kid and started smoking pot. But she was grooming herself to be the first lady. And then, of course, they set everything up by saying, can anyone stop her? And so everybody's getting used to the idea that she is so formidable that nobody can stop her, and a lot of people probably shouldn't even bother. And it's really sad that we live in an era, too, where they can plant this idea, and it creates a force of its own. But even worse than that is the fact that the Republican Party has been so pathetic of late, particularly after that last election, that they can't even mount a candidate to defeat the re-election of Obama, and they probably won't be able to mount a candidate that can defeat Hillary Clinton. And unfortunately, people hate change more than they hate things staying the same. So they complain about Congress, they complain about the president, and yet they keep re-electing the same congressman over and over and over again, and keep electing these status quo bootlicker corporate lackeys one after another, and this time will be no different. They think they're going to get something different with Hillary, and they're not. There's a nice little picture of her in 1982. Nice looking gal. Her political career rising. I was in my first punk rock band at that point. Anyway, I like this picture of her because it shows her with John McCain, that doddering old warmonger fool that doesn't know anything about the world but wants to bomb every planet on it. So her hanging out with John McCain is great. And a lot of hardcore neocons and real warmongers, they consider her one of them. So that should tell you something too. She has a lot of supporters, even in the Republican Party, especially amongst the warmonger neocon crowd, because she's even more hardcore than a lot of them. And then, of course, she's gotten her due over the years in Time magazine, many covers, and grooming her political career and helping it along. And so it's once again a symbiotic relationship between the media and this cult of personality and these politicians and these celebrities and these figures. But when you get a magazine like this, they're really grooming her for the big time. So this will be might want to pick this up. It's going to be a big collector's item when she becomes president. And they even have a little thing in here about 9 campaign themes that Hillary Clinton is test driving. And they figure her issues are going to be youth empowerment, economic inequality, the Washington outsider. She considers herself a Washington outsider, one of the ultimate insiders, but she's an outsider. But that's that backwards, doublespeak, Orwellian world we live in now. Selfless ambition, civility, foreign intervention, progressive priorities, human rights, and gender equality. And so those are going to be her big campaign issues based on some of this crap that she's pandering out there. Human rights. Quote, he called me from the van on the way to the hospital, and I said, if I were there, I would kiss you, unquote. Isn't that sweet? Here's another good one on gender equality. Quote, holding back women is not right, but it is also not smart, unquote. I'm glad she put that in really simplistic kindergarten terms and dumbed it down so everybody could understand it. And progressive priorities. Quote, 10 years ago, I was proud to begin working on bipartisan efforts to save unemployment insurance. Let's do it again quickly in this new year, unquote. So that's pretty good, pandering to the Democratic base of people who are unemployed and getting government benefits. That's just plain smart. Foreign intervention. She says, quote, we have to be prepared to make the case why we don't have a choice to continue in some form and fashion what has worked, unquote. So, yeah, I guess we just got to keep on keeping on because it's been working so well. And so anyway, she goes through all this stuff, income inequality. We must reverse this tide of inequality that's eating away at the social fabric of our country. Boy, that's pretty stirring. So anyway, I got to give it up to Hillary. She's really got this spew, the empty rhetoric, wired with all the hand gestures that go with it. And in fact, I guess her college professors used to give her accolades for how well she presented herself because she had good hand gestures. And so there's a little glimpse of Hillary Clinton, your next president, and it's really pretty disappointing that certainly the Republicans can't muster a decent candidate, and they even talk about dragging out some old dragons like Mitt Romney or Jeb Bush because they needed some big figure to go after a big fish like Hillary Clinton. And other than that, it looks like the Republican Party is going to bring out that same parade of idiots that they did last time, including the likes of Bobby Jindal and Michelle Bachmann and Rick Santorum and Mike Huckabee and Peter King and all those dingbats. But that'll just make sure that Hillary Clinton wins. And last but not least, I just want to finish up with an article that came out today about Hillary Clinton. And it talks about her needs when she's out giving her $300,000 and $400,000 speeches. She has a set of requirements, not unlike Beyonce and Jay-Z and Lady Gaga when she goes out on the road. And she needs round-trip transportation on a private jet, a Gulfstream 450 or larger, plus round-trip business class tickets for her advanced staff. She needs hotel accommodations for the entire staff, and she requires the presidential suite for herself with 5 adjoining rooms. And then even though for this particular tour, she's getting $200,000 to $300,000 per speech, she still wants a $500 travel stipend for her lead travel aide. And then meals, incidentals, and phone bills for Hillary Clinton and her staff all have to be paid for by whoever hires her. That's in addition to her speaking fee. She gets final approval of the moderator or introducer, and she requires that she be the only person on stage. And she only is going to be there 90 minutes. She's only going to post 50 photos with 100 people. There's no video or audio taping, and the whoever hires her has to pay $1,200 for a stenographer so they can take notes when she speaks, and then she controls that product. So just like any other brand, she has to control her brand, control her product, control the way her brand is used, and that's what all this is about. Other than the fact that she's another fucking celebrity like Lady Gaga, Jay-Z, and Beyonce, and she feels privileged and needs to be pampered and waited on and have demands, because that's what you can do when you're in that position. So anyway, I've gone on about Hillary Clinton more than I wanted to, because just saying her name makes my skin crawl. But like I say, you're going to be hearing her name a lot, because she's going to be the next president of the United States. I'm a useful idiot. Don't you be one too?